Bobby? Water sucks. Gatorade is better.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your Commish with another Gatorade Fantasy Football Podcast update. Are y'all ready? All right, let's go get it. Hello, everybody. Week 10 is done. You know, it wasn't too bad this week, I guess, overall. You know, a few injuries, nothing too serious on the offensive side. A few serious ones on the defensive side, though. Playoffs are just around the corner, and the picture is getting a little bit clearer. Unfortunately, there will not be a playoff preview this week. I'm actually going to start doing research into schedules and matchups and everything, and within the next week or so. Since I'm not going to be making playoffs, I can actually start looking into that stuff for you guys. Probably have it ready next week or definitely before the playoffs as like a nice playoff preview for the podcast and everything. Also, the trade deadline is approaching, and it's time to start looking at those last minute moves to set your playoff push, or to plan for next year, like for me. As for the trade deadline, I'm gonna post this up on the Facebook. I'm gonna, it's gonna be up on the thing. It should already be on all of your, if you use your desktop, it should show that trade deadline. It is November 22nd. That is the Wednesday after week 11. So by noon Eastern, so 9 a.m., trades have to be accepted by that point. I honestly, yeah, just have them in. And just a reminder, if you guys do trade draft picks, like we already had one draft pick trade, as long as both teams agree, you both have to just text me, if it's one between Mikhail and Josh, both you guys text me saying hey, in that trade, I'm trading this round pick for his round pick also included. And, as long as I know, then everything's good to go. Alright, guys, injury news, game and trade reviews, and the return of the power rankings. Y'all ready? Let's go.
He poked me in the eye. Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Unfortunately, we do not have anything small like that, like an eye poke for the injury news. For quarterbacks, we have Mariota, who I guess injured his shoulder but didn't miss any time, supposedly fine for next week. Phillip Rivers, concussion protocol, maybe after leveling AJ Boye after he made that pick. For running backs, we have Devontae Freeman with a concussion. I guess he got blown up after the second carry. He's doubtful for next week. Jeremy Hill, ankle injury. He's been a healthy scratch for about a week, so he's on the IR. You would think Mixon is gonna go full on crazy, but we'll see. Marvin Lewis doesn't know what he's doing right now. Aaron Jones, MCL injury, he's doubtful. Ty Monty came in, did pretty well, but injured his ribs again because he's always injured, so we don't know what's going on with him. Will Fuller, ribs injury. Doug Baldwin, groin injury. So far, nothing for tight ends, except, Jordan Reed's always injured, so you can just always throw him in there. And for other, like I said earlier, we have a few defensive injuries, like Richard Sherman ruptured his Achilles in Thursday Night Football. That really hurts the Seahawks defense. I know Earl Thomas didn't play either with a hamstring problem. And I think Cam Chancellor was also injured for a little bit. They might play still, but that's a big blow for that defense. And also Jamie Collins, MCL injury, so it hurts the Browns defense. I know you think, oh, it's the Browns, but their run defense was somewhat respectable. It's not like you guys are going to start them anyways, but you might want to start your running backs against them now. So, yeah. Alright, that's it for injuries, guys. Let's go on to the game reviews. And with the first game review of the week, we have Fail Mary at Slight Work with a score of 68.5 to 53.9. Oh my goodness. Alright, Josh finally gets a win after a 2-game skid. Led by Jacoby Brissett with about 20 points. He also had Lev Bell with 13.7 points, but no one else over 10. He even played a defense on a bye week, which is pretty sad because, oh, how the mighty have fallen. And that's it for the long-time leading scorer of the league. Fourth loss in a row, the last two with horrible scores. It's been an ugly year of fantasy for me. No one over 9.4 points. It's disappointing games from everybody. This is probably it for me for the season. On to the next one. Gonna start planning for what I can do next year. Alright, not much else. Let's go on to the second one. We have here fried spam and eggs at ACLs and fibulas with a score of 85.7 to 122.9. Angel had another decent game here, but despite the loss, he also played a defense on bye, which is not surprising. Him and Josh kind of busy this weekend, being gay. It probably wouldn't have helped. Reg had a sizable lead, by like 40 something points, so wouldn't have helped. But he did have, 5 players with between 12 to 19 points, with Golden Tate leading the way. That's pretty nice. Like I said, decent game, but wouldn't have mattered. As for Reg, another big win. He's finally finding his groove after a rough patch there with injuries. Losing Cook and losing OBJ. He's made a lot of moves that he found great value. Using the waiver wire and trading and building the roster that he has now, and it shows. I would think probably the second strongest team in the league right now. But yeah, he had monster games from Kamara and DeMarco. It's a nice bounce back game for him. Kamara actually seems to be running amok. As Fournette has disappointed the past few weeks already. Kareem Hunt has been in a downward spiral. Kamara has just been getting better and better. So, good on Reg. He looks to have a team that's poised to contend this year and in the next coming years without those young running backs. And decent games for everyone else on his squad. Helped give him a comfortable win. And let's go on to the third game, guys. And for the third game, we have Pocket Dogs at Evil Doc with a score of 88.6 to 73. He had nice games here from the Red Rocket. Just talking about Jordan. He had nice games by Red Rocket. Todd Gurley and Jimmy Graham. Gave our ginger friend here the win this week. He was actually lucky that he had this matchup with Frank because one of his studs, Mike Evans, was suspended for his fight. If Jordan's actually going to be serious about this season, I think it might be time to find a real defense. The Cowboys were okay, but you can't really trust them. And if you can't keep rolling with the Texans, I don't think, because you need to find one with less injuries and one that doesn't have 3 negative games in the past 6 weeks. They give up way too many points, and they don't have an offense that can really keep up with other teams. So I would suggest, if looking around, maybe Saints is available. But yeah, for Frank, he actually had a strong game from Crowell and Monty and Marquise Lee. He actually could have won if he had a kicker and a tight end, but Frank is, I think, past that point of caring for this season. It's on to the next one, as is, Terrence Williams actually came back down to earth. That's more like the player that's disappointed his entire career. The same one who decided to have his best night against me. He actually had weirdly, Hilton had another bad game, and what's weird about it is that it's when Jacoby had a decent game. So that sucks for Frank. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. I think Jordan did well anyways, or did well enough anyways to keep Frank at bay. But yeah, more on that Frank's team later. Alright guys, on to the fourth game. And for the fourth game, we have Vitamin D at Hard Knocks with a score of 117 to 100.1. It is another win. 9-1 it is. This, despite Freeman only playing 2 snaps and getting lit up, and Melly G disappointing. Both of them combined for 7 total points. But luckily, Mark Ingram had a huge game with 131 yards, 3 touchdowns, 131 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Of course, he had his passing, receiving yards. He also had, the Seahawks defense, special teams, which I talked about earlier. Evan Ingram, Jarvis Landry, and Michael Thomas all scored in double digits. It's probably going to be the norm the rest of the season, except for that Seahawks defense. Their secondary is really hurt. Their defensive line is insane, and their linebacking core is really good with Bobby Wagner. So they can still probably contend, but they're not going to be the elite defense that they have been for the longest time. Unfortunately for Josh here, he drops a second in a row despite having a decent overall score of 100 points. His RBs leave a lot to be desired, especially with Zeke out. Alfred Morris and Aaron Jones are just... Alfred Morris is not that good. And I mean, that Dallas line did get beat up, especially without Tyron Smith. It could get better next week with the return of Smith. What could be nice too for Josh, running back wise, is that Devontae Freeman got hurt, and that could lead the way for Tevin Coleman getting running back 1 touches, and he is, I think, a really nice running back. It's just like LaDainian Tomlinson and Michael Turner. It's a very nice problem to have. And who is probably the brightest spot on his team is Adam Thielen, as he continues to shine as he scores this in his 2nd straight game. And it's actually his 2nd game over 150 yards after week 1. I believe he's leading the league in yards. Not too bad for a white boy, huh? Then again, we have Jordy Nelson. So Adam Thielen is the best white receiver this year. Sorry, Jordy. You had it until Aaron Rodgers went out, unfortunately for me and you and everybody else. Alright guys, that's it for the 4th game. Let's move on to the 5th one, which I do have to say myself was a very exciting one. And on this one, guys, we have Barking Guns at Team Darkness with a score of 136 to 94.2. Oh man, what a win. Trey snaps his 6-game losing streak and at the same time snaps TJ's 3-game winning streak. Oh, sorry TJ. Sorry. Cam Newton had a huge game, which actually also included a 69-yard run on an option read where he just gashed that Miami defense up the gut. It was a beautiful move, and it probably would have been a touchdown too. He was there at like the 13-yard line or something. He just got chased down by a cornerback. Cam is good. It's funny because I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about the Panthers and how their offense is so weird because their best running back is their quarterback, their best wide receiver is their running back, and their best tight end is actually their wide receiver. And when I look at it, I'm like, oh, that is true. Their best running back is Cam Newton, their best wide receiver is Christian McCaffrey, and their best tight end is Devin Funchess. I heard that, thought it was cute. Hope you guys like that. I hope you like that, Corey. Yeah. Alright. Robert Woods, wow, had another 2-touchdown game, this time with 101 extra yards. And I'm sorry TJ, you had a nice game, but your streak on top is over. You were led by Jared Goff. Gross! But unfortunately for that, all of Jared Goff's production, or at least most of it, went towards Woods. So, that was a little defensive play, I guess, by Trey, who's not really playing this year. And for TJ, at least Juju Smith-Schuster had another big game. And I think this is a good year for USC wide receivers, right, Mikhail? I mean, you had Nelson Aguilar do very well. Marquise Lee's doing well. Robert Woods, JJSS, all of them are producing. None of them are the big stars they were in college where they were like top 5 at their position. But they are actually all being very productive, unlike the crop of USC players from the Reggie Bush era. It was like Reggie Bush, Mike Williams, Lendale White. Gross. I mean, who else did they have? They had just a bunch of big 6'5" receivers that just couldn't do shit. And like, I mean, we could have had Deshaun Jackson, but they're like, no, we can't give you the jersey #1 because we promised that to Patrick Turner. Oh, god damn it. We could have had Deshaun Jackson because he was born Compton, wanted to play for USC. I'm sorry, guys. I digress. Yeah. Fight on. On to the next one, guys. And for our last game of the week, we have Tasha Rain at Motorboat and Sons of Bitches with a score of 112.6 to 121.8. We had here nice games from Stafford and Robbie Anderson, and surprisingly again, Devin Funches. I keep talking shit about him because just the game film on him, he's going to get the volume, but the game film on him, he's slow. And I've seen him drop easy passes. It's like he belongs on the Ravens or something because of how bad he is at playing wide receiver. But, you know, if he's playing well, he's playing well. It's just, you know, can't deny it. Good for him, I guess. He played well enough that they decided to trade away Kelvin Benjamin. Christian McCaffrey had another nice game, you know, with a rushing and receiving touchdown each. Good for him. I actually like him. They were talking about how he's the next Danny Woodhead. He's more effective Danny Woodhead. I think he's one of the league leaders in receptions. No, not leading the league. He's leading all running backs in receptions. He has 57 as of right now, with second place just James White, and overall he's 6th place, only behind DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Larry Fitz, Antonio Brown, and Jarvis Landry. And Antonio Brown, 2nd in receptions, 1st in yards, and 1st in breaking my goddamn heart. You son of a bitch. Alright, unfortunately for Corey, as I digressed once more, he had bad games from Cameron Brate and Jerick McKinnon, and that probably cost him the game this week as he's fighting for a playoff spot. And he lost it to a guy that he's fighting for that playoff spot. Nice win by Fred, keeps him in the playoff race. You know, Captain Kirk led the way with 27 points. AJ Green had a nice bounce back game with 23 points, and Hopkins had another decent game, surprisingly, you know, with like 15 points or whatever. I don't know how long he can keep it up with Savage at quarterback. I don't know if you guys have seen him drop back. He's extremely slow, and so I guess when somebody I was listening, they compared him to Brock Osweiler. Osweiler is not he's a smart quarterback because he actually makes the right reads and progressions, I believe. That's how they were explaining it, at least last year. He knew who to throw it to and when to throw it. He just is incapable of actually being accurate and throwing it properly. As for Savage, he throws it much more accurately, but he just doesn't know when to throw it or how to throw it. Horrible pocket awareness. So if you actually combine those two, you will have a below average quarterback, or maybe average quarterback. But yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't matter really. Jordan Howard pooped his pants, but luckily for Fred, the rest of the squad did not. Alright guys, that's it for all the game reviews. Hope you enjoyed that. Let's move on to one quick trade review and a little recap on trades, the deadline and everything, and also the power rankings. Alright, let's keep it going. And now for the trade reviews. We have Manny trading Jordy Nelson and a 6th round pick to Frank for Kelvin Benjamin and a 2nd round pick. This is the first trade including draft picks. Frank trades a player that has more current value for someone that has more future value, because he's planning for the future. Manny still gets a 2nd round pick, which is nice. It's weird, right? The 32-year-old is a better future prospect than the 26-year-old. This is mainly because Nelson would have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball next year, much better than Tyrod. Nelson, who I know for a fact I was not going to 3-pool, is already a late first round, early second round pick in a regular draft. In a keeper draft, where more of the top end talent will be kept, he would come closer to being an early to mid first round pick. While he would also lose value in like a full-blown dynasty where you keep everybody and you don't really have a choice unless you drop him and he'll just get picked up. He loses less of that value, or he loses less of that lost value in a keeper league, because due to the fact you can just choose not to continue keeping him if you wish and move on, or trade him to somebody who's win now because he's going to be nice with Aaron Rodgers back. Manny, get a player who's been decent this year, but is a new target on a run-first team, and even though he has a nice schedule coming up, his target share is completely unknown to this point. Frank gives up a nice second-round pick, but at least he gets that 6th-round pick to help recoup. He's not picking at the back of the draft, or getting penalized for not having enough picks. Also the move of Jordy Nelson from a team not keeping him to one that will helps weaken the draft. If Frank decides to go and franchise, let's say, Marshawn or Ty Montgomery, it allows him to 3-pool Jordy Nelson and T.Y. Hilton, where let's say he does end up having Marshawn or Ty along with Jordy and Hilton for next year. That's pretty good base. But as like I said earlier at the beginning, at the top of this podcast, trades including draft picks, just let me know. I have a Google Doc going. I should actually probably post that up somewhere, but it has pretty much all of our draft picks all like linked out and all color coded, so when it's traded you can see what color it really belonged to and who has what, and below that there's actually a section where you can type in what the trade was, so you can still keep track of who has what and what's going where. And trade deadline approaching November 22nd at noon Eastern, so that means 9 a.m. For the West Coast, which is pretty much everybody but Trey, who doesn't care right now doesn't have to worry about that. So alright, that's it for trades. If you guys have any questions about how to handle any of that stuff, just if you're trading draft picks, just let me know. Both of you guys, both Mikhail and Josh, just both text me separately, say, hey, I agree, I'm trading Melvin Gordon, a 4th-round pick, and a blowjob to Josh for Le'Veon Bell and a 8th-round pick, something like that. Alright guys, that's it for the trade reviews and a quick run over of the trade rules, I guess you could say. Let's move on to, I know what you've all been waiting for, power rankings.
Gatorade not only quenches your thirst better, it tastes better too, idiot.
You're drinking the wrong water.
Gatorade.
H2O.
Gatorade.
H2O.
Yeah, started throwing a little audio clips there for you guys. Alright, first place in our power rankings, as he should have been the past couple of weeks, sorry TJ, is Mikhail. He has a strong team. He has the best record by 2 games. The only thing is that he continues to have the easiest matchups by far, with only 740 points scored against him. He also only has 920 points, which is 5th in the league. I mean, actually counting his 117 from this week, he has 1,337 points. So, I mean, he's doing decent. He's still like 4th or 5th in the league. The playoffs might be bad for him, but also having that first round bye will help. Second place, we actually have Reggie. He is actually the new highest scoring team in the league with 1,095 points. Manny dropped down finally after having 2 bad weeks. His Reg's recent streak has allowed him to catch up. He also has a strong team leading into the playoffs as long as his big play players continue to shine. Dak Prescott needs to play better. Kamara is nice. Mixon's been a solid, not an RB1. RB2 flex is nice. DeMarco Murray, if he continues to have big games, but always has Derrick Henry lurking. He needs a better play from Julio, but, we'll see how he does because he's disappointed before in the past for fantasy playoffs. But Reg is one of the stronger players this year and for years to come, especially having Mixon, Cook, and Kamara on that squad. In third place, we have Jordan, also 7-3 with Reggie. He has 1,063 points. It puts him third overall in points scored. And before this week, actually, him and Reg both had eerily similar stat lines. Both teams were 6-3. Reggie had scored 74 point, or Jordan had scored 974.9, and Reggie had 972.9, so 2 points different. And both had scored against them 873.2 and 872.3, so less than a point difference. It was this past week that allowed Reg to squeak past Jordan. He also has a nice squad as long as Mike Evans continues to produce and not get suspended for stupid shit. Carlos Hyde, with the addition of Jimmy Garoppolo to that 49ers offense, could also prove to be very nice towards the end of the year, giving them a real quarterback. But we'll see. For number 4, we have Josh Del Mundo, also 7-3, the last of the 7-3 teams. He's tied for second place in record only. His hot streak off the backs of Le'Veon Bell and Kareem Hunt have taken a slow plummet. He is actually the lowest scoring of the 7-3 teams, and he hasn't cracked 1,000 points yet. So I think he's like 6th in scoring overall. In 5th place, I have Fred, who is 6-4. Josh hasn't scored 1,000 points yet, and neither has Fred. He actually has less than 1 point less than Josh. The loss of Deshaun Watson for the season, hurt DeAndre Hopkins, and he also traded his 2 Saints running backs, who are actually were his best running backs probably, other than Jordan Howard, who is on and off. Trading those 2 guys and keeping Frank Gore really weakened his chances this season, but he still could have a shot if Howard steadies his production and his 2 stud wide receivers along with Stefon Diggs as his flex continue to produce. Still that chance. 6th place, we have Josh S. Shaden at 5-5. I can't even say anything about him trading Julio anymore because I think Larry Fitz has had enough big games and Brandon Cooks has been steady enough that you can't say anything. And Julio hasn't been that good. I mean, you probably could have gotten a little bit more name value for Julio, I guess, just because it's Julio Jones. But considering production that has been, the production that all players involved have given, it's not a bad trade. The problem for him is actually going to be the loss of Zeke. He's not going to be back until December 1st at the earliest if they do the expedited hearing. But that actually might be Josh's downfall and allows Corey or TJ to catch up to him in the playoff race. As for Corey, he is 7th on our list. He lost this week, but he still has a fighting chance to make it into the playoffs. His low points scored could be a problem if he gets into a tie with Josh. Wins are going to be what's important for him. And it's also going to be important for TJ, who's also 4-6. And and here he goes back down to earth. I'm sorry, TJ. You had a nice run, dude, but it couldn't last forever, right? Maybe. We'll see what happens next week. Jai is a nice piece moving forward, as is Carson Wentz. We'll see how that works out for you. If you decide to start planning for next year, or maybe a couple players would be nice to help you make that push, because you technically are just right there. A couple players would be nice. Alright, in 9th place we have me, Manny. I am the top of the 3-7 teams just because I have more points than them. And the season is most likely over. Even if I win the rest of my games, which is like the next 3 games, 6 and 7, there's a small chance I make the playoffs. But if I decide to trade players to obtain assets for next year, it weakens my chance for the playoffs this year. But we'll see. Uh, I was far and ahead the leading scorer in the league for the longest time until the past 2 weeks happened, and it allowed Reggie and Jordan to both catch up and score. It's time to start looking at next year. In 10th place, we have Trey. He is here because he had the highest point total this week over Angel, so good for him. Angel is 11th, also 3 and 7. It's time for him to find some talent for that franchise player in 3-pool. David Johnson is nice, but I don't know how you feel about 3-pooling Demarius Thomas and Golden Tate, along with who else? I don't know, Randall Cobb. I guess you could go Marvin Jones. Maybe spread the wealth in sense that you get players that are a little bit better than DT and Tate, but I think I'd rather keep DJ because he's a top talent, but that's just me. And in last place, just because he's the only one that's 2 and 8, is Frankie Francis. Frank made his first move for next year. He grabs, like I said earlier, Jordy Nelson, giving him a legit franchise player. Unless he decides to franchise another position and 3-pool Jordan Hilton. Like I said before, nice base for him. Just not a nice base for him this year. And that does it for the power rankings as well as the podcast. Alright everybody, thanks for listening. I know it ran a little long. Explaining trades and going over some of the other stuff. Next week's probably won't be too long. It will probably get long again. That's what she said. When I do the playoff preview. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As usual, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hit me up. You know how, you know where. And good luck for everybody that's about to make the playoffs. And for those not, I'm sorry that I'm going to fucking own you in the losers bracket. I'm going to make every single one of you my little whores. My mouth-watering whores. Alright guys, that's it for this week's pod. Commish out.